We have one more minute, and then we will get started. James, you let me know when we're recording. And if everybody would mute their phones, please.
Okay, Mayor, I've already started the recording, so we are ready when you are.
All right. Mr. Watkins, you ready? You put that away.
It's the agenda.
Oh, we got the agenda. Do we have printed agendas?
I just made some, sir. I got about 5 over here.
We could pass out to the council?
Sorry, I wasn't trying to. I just didn't have another copy of it.
I have one. Thank you very much. All right, then. I will call this city council meeting to order at 7:01 p.m., September the 16th, 2024. All members of the council are present. If you would bow your heads with me, offer invocation, and then stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Almighty Father in heaven. We praise your holy name. We give you thanks for all that we have received. We ask that you continue your guidance on our city and on our state and on our nation. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This next item, I know that gives myself and the council great pleasure to do this presentation. It's a presentation of Service Anniversary Awards. Ms. Katrina White is not with us this evening, but I would ask that Mr. Stephen Harvey please come up. Stand like this. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. All right, great. Stephen has been with us for 15 years. This is his anniversary, 15th year anniversary. I would also like to make mention that very recently, Mr. Harvey was promoted to Assistant Chief of the Fire Department. With that, Service Award. This certificate is awarded to Stephen Harvey in grateful appreciation for 15 years of dedicated service to the city of Haslet. 2024. Congratulations on your 15th service anniversary, and thank you for your commitment and dedication on behalf of the City Council and myself. Thank you. And also, I would like to present you this 15-year plaque. Thank you. And take the significant other out to dinner.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One more item. Yes, sir, we do. Oh, a service pin. I was gonna keep that.
No.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Stephen. Mr. Gullahan is a key component of our Public Works Department. Excellent. Mr. Gullahan's been with us for 10 years. And with that, the service award, this certificate is awarded to David Gullahan in grateful appreciation for 10 years of dedicated service to the city of Haslet. Congratulations on your 10th service anniversary. Thank you for your commitment and dedication on behalf of the city council and myself. And with that, in your service plaque.
Awesome. Thank you.
Again, take your beautiful significant other out to dinner. And your service pin.
Sir.
Thank you very much, David. That's always an honor to get to do that. Thank you, gentlemen. And we thank Ms. White as well. But we'll do that the next meeting. Item number 4 is citizen participation and comments. Do we have any speakers? Or
Yes, I
any
have,
specific items or in general comments?
there's a couple of speakers wishing to speak on something not on the agenda.
All right, if you would have them come up.
Okay. The first one is Marty McCoy. He's going to speak on public safety. He's also signed up to speak later on another item.
Very good. If you would state your name and address, please.
Good morning, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Marty McCoy. I'm a resident in Haslet, Ashmore Farms. So, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, staff, and fellow citizens. It is a matter of public safety, so I think it's great that you've just recognized members of our fire department, members of the city. That's all about serving us and us helping and serving each other. The matter of public safety is FM 156. And I realize FM 156, the major stakeholder there, not only the city has it, and it's TxDOT. I have contacted TxDOT today, and I spoke to a district manager specifically about safety. Safety item number 1 is near the intersection of 156 and Blue Mountain Road, where when you're northbound on FM 156, making a left turn into Ashmore Farms, there are going to be accidents there, and there's going to be a fatality. No doubt about it. We have people that are crossing the double yellow line, and they're trying to expedite to get to the intersection of FM 156 and Blue Mountain Road, particularly when Amazon and UPS, those facilities have their shift changes. As you know, FM 156 gets very congested. I spoke to TxDOT, the district manager, about this. The district manager, I mentioned I was coming to the city council meeting tonight. The district manager suggested that I ask and request that the city council send another request to TxDOT, requesting and asking in the matter of public safety for the highway markings, the double yellow lines, the left turn lane when you're northbound going into Ashmore Farms, be restriped. There have been several accidents there, and again, it's a matter of time somebody's going to get killed. And secondly, involving that aspect of FM 156, this again falls to TxDOT, I realize that, but when the city council, if you so to honor this request, if you would also include for TxDOT to place a sign up not to block the entrance into Ashmore Farms on 156. TxDOT manager said that could be considered as well. I know you've made requests before. As residents, we've made requests, and they're constantly trying to get out on FM 156, coming out of the east entrance or east exit from Ashmore Farms. It's a demolition derby trying to get out, and people continually block that entrance. So humbly, as a member of the community, as a resident of Ashmore Farms, and concerned about public safety, I'm a first responder myself in the chemical industry, I ask that you help support in preventing a major fatality and traffic accident situation on 156. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions?
Mr. McCoy, I was asked that after the meeting or tomorrow that you and I visit, so possibly I can get a name as who this person was, and also, again, the request items, because I know what you're speaking of, and I'm surprised to hear some of that. But let's visit tomorrow.
That'll be fine, and I'll write it down and make sure you have it before I leave today, exactly the topic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Our next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Sheila Moore.
Ms. Moore, if you'd state your name and address, please.
Sheila Moore, 212 Arbor Lane, and I'm also in Ashmore Farms. It's been an issue that's been long on the books, it's been talked, discussed, and everything else for a long, long period of time. Just getting into the entrance from Blue Mountain Road, the rear entrance, there's a sign that's posted there, has been posted there, no left turn between 7 and 9 a.m. There's also a new sign that puts up there, it says do not block the intersection, and one that says no through traffic. That does not work. The only seems like the only thing that anybody can come up with to resolve this issue is to put speed bumps in. That's it. They cut through there, they come off of Blue Mountain Road, cut up either Ashmore Place or they're coming down Arbor Lane. It doesn't matter if there's a speed bump there or not. Some of those people are doing 60 miles an hour down that road to get out of Ashmore Farms on the east side. So they can cut across or turn around to hit the red light because of the backup on Blue Mountain Road. I'm recommending, and I even offered to go out there, put some cones out there from either 7 to 9, something to stop this from happening. There's kids out there, especially with school buses now and everything else. These people are flying through that neighborhood. And it's really getting dangerous because the traffic is building up, getting more and more heavier through that area. I don't know what to say. We talked about a gate. I don't know if there's a way to put a gate up that we can maybe just have it shut between 7 and 9. That the residents have an option to somehow get out so they can make either a right or a left turn out of the neighborhood. Something has got to happen with these people coming into that area. Terrible. The police officers were there a couple weeks ago at a request, and I know they've pulled over at least 25 people. And that wasn't even in a 2-hour period. So that's all I have to say. I know we talked about this plenty of times.
And again, Ms. Moore, I would request of you is that if we could visit sometime tomorrow. Thank you very much. If you would send me a note or a text or an email.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other speakers?
Yes, sir. Syed.
Ms. Syed, if you would state your name and your address, please.
Yes, Syed, 6705 Sapphire Circle North, Colleyville, Texas, 76034. I'm here to introduce myself. I'm running for TAD board appointed position. Mayor and council, probably last week you will receive an email from TAD that the nomination letters are out. Usually they send on September 30th, and it's the effort of several activists to work on TAD and tell them, please send those letters earlier then September 30th, because some councils and school district does not have any meeting until third week. And the nomination deadline is October 14. So this year, because of the legislature change, 5 appointed board positions are all up to get either reappointed or you can pick a new nominee for that. The deadline is October 14. By October 30th, Chief Appraisal will assemble the ballot and send it to all taxing entities. And all taxing entities has to vote and send it back to TAD by December 14th. And if you send it on December 15th, they will not count the votes. I know Mayor of Haslet is very much involved with TAD, and he put really good efforts towards it. The main job of TAD board director is hire and fire chief appraiser. That's everyone knows about it. But certify the tax roll by July 25th. There is new job responsibility on TAD board. That's the appointment of appraisal review board members with at least 2 votes from elected board members. And we have 3 elected board members. Last but not the least is to follow Texas property tax code. And this time I'm encouraging all taxing entities to please look into it. Doesn't matter how big or how small you are, please vote for each candidate on ballot. So at the end, you have the right to recall that board member if they do not follow Texas property tax code. I know City of Haslet has 5 votes on TAD board. That is 0.1015% of stake, 5 votes out of 5,000 votes. Please look into it. If you want to nominate someone, this is the time. You can nominate up to 5 people. Doesn't matter you vote for that candidate or not, but you can nominate. If people do not know me, I can tell a little introduction of myself. I am a mechanical engineer by profession. I'm an appraisal review board member back in 2019, 2020, and part of 2021. I used to work for City of Dallas, but I am several boards and commission for the City of Colleyville since 2017. I started with Metroport Teen Code, and I'm still on that. And I'm planning and zoning since 2019, and capital improvement, I'm on that. I was on Architectural Review Commission. I was on Zoning Board of Adjustment, several different boards. And, this is the office that I want to seek and represent people of Haslet, and especially your voice there. If some council member doesn't know usually how TAD works and how they get the money to run their budget, it's a quarterly payment that all taxing entities pay to appraisal districts. And the payments are on January 1st, April 1st, July 1st, and October 1st. And if you miss the deadline to pay them, you will have to pay penalties and interest for that. Well, your mayor was very involved, and I believe you know everything about that. So please look into it. And one request, please do not appoint taxing entities or someone who is a taxing entity, because they think that the job of the appraisal district is to act like a taxing entity. Their job is to follow Texas property tax code, and that's their main job. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I will definitely send an email within a week with all my profile and everything. Hope to get nomination from this council, and hope to get more than 1 vote from this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Saeed. All right, do we have any other speakers?
All the other speakers are asking for a specific item or
Very good.
during the public hearing.
All right, then. We would go to items of community interest. Haslet is hiring. If you visit our employment opportunities on our website at haslet.org. Also, we have Movie in the Park, Friday, September 27th. Kung Fu Panda. I love it. Well, I don't know about 4. I haven't seen it yet. Nance Field, food trucks, and it'll open at 6:30. National Night Out, October 1, 2024, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Haslet Community Park. It's a free annual community building event, promotes police and fire partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie. I was visiting with some other officials probably more than a week ago, and the subject of National Night Out came up. And I have got to pass on this compliment. They said that Haslet's National Night Out was one of the very best in North Texas. So give ourselves a round. So, good job, everybody. And I'll just, again, on our Miss Katrina White, 15-year recipient. She is our special events coordinator. He does an excellent job on that. Well, very good. Let's go to item 6, administrative reports. Council, do you have any report that you have questions on?
Yes, Mayor, I've got on the engineering report, I was curious about the, where'd it go? The Laprelle utility extension and where we're at with the right-of-way acquisitions for that.
Now, which one is that?
It's down in the water section for the Laprelle utility extension, and we're going to look at purchasing the right-of-way for that.
The Laprelle utility water extension.
I think we discussed it back in January, February.
That is, Mr. Rogers, you know anything about the Laprelle? You know, one of the things is there's several Laprelles. One of them is no longer. The water.
At the time, I think it was the water and sewer. We'd gotten to the 95%.
There's no activity, so that's just been, basically it's on total hold. There's nothing going on with it.
So we're not actively pursuing right-of-ways.
No active development or anything going there, so.
All right, so it's that,
In case it ever comes back.
Anyway, the Laprelle project is a Fort Worth project, and
Yeah.
it'd be associated with that.
No, we
So
made
when
an
they
ordinance.
notify, as well as sewer, when they notify the city of Haslet, they're moving forward, they being the developer, then we will engage as needed. It's
Okay.
not a Haslet project.
I know it's not our project, but we made an ordinance about tying the water and sewer together, and we took on as the city of Haslet to purchase the right-of-ways for that, so.
When they give us the go-ahead.
Yes.
They are the drivers of the project.
Okay, so-
Not Haslet.
All right, so council will be notified when they engage.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, there's right-of-way acquisitions that are currently in the works, especially on the TRA portion of the sewer line part. But nothing's been finalized yet. We're still working with the property owners on Hero in this part of town over here. Still working with.
Okay.
That's the main-
No, I just remember we had talked about that, and
Yeah,
It'll
it'll be
go-
coming, hopefully, we got some new news today, so hopefully soon. Should have something, I hope.
Good.
okay, thank you.
Council, we have any other questions on any other report? All right, then, we can move to item 7, updates on active items, projects, and event recaps. Haslet Parkway construction, I'll make note that TxDOT has still not responded to the bridge analysis, and that's being addressed in other manners. Eventually, probably within sometime in October, I'll be bringing that project for council guidance and possible action. 7B, a tennis court security system project. All aspects of the system are in place and functional, and that's primarily the video system and recording system, as well as the reservation system. One last piece with that is the locking mechanism. It is anticipated to be installed within 2 weeks, and that will complete that entire system. Fire department, the fire station expansion project. Of course, that was bidded some time ago, over 30 days ago. Bids were received last week, and I'm happy to announce that the successful bidder has, most of the bids were under budget, and the bids have gone through, as I was informed late Friday afternoon, is that the successful bidder has been vetted, and they're probably getting a notification letter here very soon, within, if not today, maybe tomorrow. But that was, well, it's good that it's under budget. Fire station ball field ADA sidewalks. If you have not gone out to the fire station ball fields, please do so and look at all the improvements that have been made, thanks to Public Works and engineering. The ADA sidewalks have been all poured. Now, I understand there was a walkthrough this afternoon, and there might be a little bit of rework required. I don't know yet. But also, there are some ADA handrails that are being installed, and we have several contractors looking at that and giving a price on those handrails, and they will be installed shortly. But please go out and take a look of all the work that's been done in the ball fields. Great.
Mayor Halsey?
Yes.
Before you move forward, back on 7A, on the Haslet Parkway construction project, you had mentioned you were finishing the letter to the Federal Highway Commission. Can you
Right.
give us a status on that?
That is not finished, but it will be sent out this week.
Mr. Mayor, in regards to item 7C for the expansion project, that's in regards to bringing sewer, excuse me, sewer and bathrooms to the actual firehouse field. Is that correct?
No. That is a separate project, but that'll be going to bid, I believe, within about 30 days or less? Next week. Very good. Those are separate. The expansion project is the building and site itself. Does not include the sewer project. That's a separate project.
Oh, is that the soccer fields and football fields you were talking about?
This is a sewer line project to support both the fire station and the ball fields.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Very good.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd just like to say, relating to 7D, the walkway and stuff, I've driven down there multiple times, and from where we went with the chipped up asphalt mountain to, a striped parking lot, and sidewalks and all, you guys, James, David, and the Public Works people have done an excellent job overseeing, cleaning that area up. It's looking light years ahead of where it was, 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Well, I'll tell you what, just go back 2.5 years. We don't have to go back 5 years.
Yeah.
It was a junkyard back there.
So it does look
And they
much
got
better.
just a focused effort on the entire property cleanup, hauling off materials and piles of refuse material. It was, can't say enough about it. They've done an excellent job, and for those folks that are new that drive out there, okay, yeah, all right, big deal. Well, for us that know what it was just even 2.5 years ago, it is a big deal to Haslet.
Well, and even getting the brush pickup moved out of there just cleans it up too. So thank y'all very much.
All right, then. Any other questions on anything under 7?
Just real quick, on 7C, how much under budget was that, the bids that we got?
Approximately $400,000.
It's quite a bit under budget. I'm just wondering if they're budgeting too high for these things, or maybe that's the way to go, that we wouldn't have to come back and request. Anyway,
Well, I'll tell you, there were bids that were way over that, over our budget. So, let's give thanks. Or we can write them a letter, and Councilman, the council suggests that you didn't bid enough.
Mayor
All
Halsey, on that same subject, I worry about when bids come in too low or come in too high based upon technical requirements, so.
Right, and we look for groupings, and we got a good staff, engineering and architect, and our own staff that have gone through this a number of times. They know what to look for. So, very happy. Good job. All right, any other questions, comments? Let's move on to item 8, consent agenda. Council, do you have any item on there that you have question or would like to pull from the consent agenda? If not, then may I have a motion?
Mayor Halsey, I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion is made to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Yes, Mayor, I'll second that motion.
Y'all don't be bashful, okay? All right, there is a second. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, council. Let's go to item 9. Just a brief comment. The next 4 items under 9, all budget related. And there's a series that we execute for to stay compliant with the state. And the first one, item 9A, is to first what we have to do is go through the amendment of our current budget. It's closing the year out. So item 9A is discuss, consider, and act to adopt an ordinance to amend the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget. Ms. Lamb.
Yes, Mayor and Council, the items that are before you on the amendments, they were either items that you may have previously acted on as different projects came to you through the year that might have needed additional funding. We're just wrapping those up into this final amendment. Several of the amendments were pointed out as we went through developing the 24-25 budget, and you saw those during the workshops. And then some of them were just from the time that elapsed from the workshops to this last end of month. We've made some tweaks to those as necessary. We've looked at both revenues and expenditures and made adjustments for where we saw surplus or shortfalls. And you have an attachment that shows by fund what all the effects of the amendments would be. And so if you have any questions, please let me know.
Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Lamb? All right, then. There's no further discussion. May I have a motion?
Mayor Halsey,
Yes.
sorry. I move to approve the ordinance to amend the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget as presented.
Motion is made to approve the an ordinance to amend the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget as presented. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey, I'll second.
There is a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Our next item is the public hearing on our proposed fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. So at this time, at 7:34 p.m., I open this public hearing. Is there anybody present in the chambers or online that would like to speak to this item? Mr. Tucker, do you? Yes, sir. Please come up, state your name and address.
Bill Kirby, I live at 2213 FM 156. And, I guess I'm looking at your newsletter you sent out. You have a proposed tax rate of 0.35. It says voter-approved tax rate was 0.33. Did we actually vote on this at some time? I don't remember ever voting on any tax rate.
Ms. Lamb, you want to go ahead and explain that?
Yes. No, there was not a vote on the tax rate. There's the way the tax rates are determined once you go through get the valuations from the Tarrant Appraisal District and the Denton County Appraisal District. We go through a calculation that's required under the statute. We determine certain base rates during that time. One of them is a no new revenue rate, which basically its name kind of connotates what it is. Then there's a voter approval tax rate, and then there is a special taxing agency voter approval tax rate. And so as long as we do not exceed the higher of those tax rates, the voter approval tax rate, we're not required to have a vote.
So we're below the voter approval tax rate.
Not according to what I'm looking at. It says voter approval is 0.33, and you're saying the proposed one is 0.35. So that's higher.
There's a special agency voter approval tax rate that's 8% over your no new revenue rate, and our rate we're proposing is 7.99%. So the special agency tax rate is not listed on your rates.
It's not very clear. So I guess part of my problem is I talked to the mayor last year about complaining about the tax rate because they keep raising the value of my house, you know. I'm paying more in taxes than I am paying for the house already. So, and you're going to get more money this year because all the houses have gone up in value. Plus, they built a whole lot of them around here. And I think what you told me last year was the main reason you needed more money was to put in sewer pipes on the main roads. Is that part of their deal, or?
It is to provide infrastructure for our continued growth in infrastructure as water, roads, and sewer, and other facilities for public works and employees, because all of that is growing. And our primary source of revenue to support all of that is ad valorem.
Is what?
Ad valorem, property tax.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, well, I guess my complaint is, like, I believe I saw a proposed map on Haslet of where the new sewer lines are going to be. And some of them are going, according to that, is going right down 156 where I live. Well, everybody over there has their own septic system now. We don't need a sewer line. We definitely don't want one, because it would cost me a fortune to hook up to it. Where I have to hook up to it's almost a football field from the road. And then I'd have to pay every month for that. I've got a perfectly good septic system working now, and so is everybody else around there. I mean, is this something that has to be done? Is it, you know, because you said last year it was in the works. Well, I haven't seen anything coming up.
Understood. You're not required to hook up to it.
No?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I still like to have my taxes paid. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone else who would like to speak to this item on our public hearing? Online, do we have anybody online?
Nobody has signified that they want to speak online.
And there's no one in the chambers? Yes, sir. If you would please approach the podium.
Yeah. This speaker and the one you just heard were actually signed up to speak on the tax, at the tax hearing.
At the tax hearing?
Yeah.
Okay,
This is the budget hearing.
This is a
so-
public hearing. This is a different item. We'll call you up. Thank you. Again, is there anyone in the public hearing item on the proposed fiscal year budget that would like to speak? Anybody online?
No, sir. Nobody online has requested to speak.
All right. There's no one online nor in the chamber, so I close the public hearing. And that is 7:40 p.m. Item 9C, discuss, consider, and act regarding an ordinance adopting the budget for fiscal year October 1, 2024 to from October 1, 2024 to September 30, 2025. This budget will raise more total property taxes than last year's budget by an amount of $853,439, which is a 17.33% increase from last year's budget. The property tax revenue will be raised from new property added to the tax roll this year is $448,769. Ms. Lamb?
Yes, this budget is the result of the recommendations from the mayor as the budget officer and the deliberations that the council had during their budget workshops earlier in the summer, and it has been posted to the public since August 16th, and it was required to be posted for 30 days, and so today is the hearing for the budget.
Council, do we have any questions? There are no questions. I entertain a motion, please.
Mayor Halsey?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the ordinance adopting the budget for fiscal year October 1st, 2024, September 30th, 2025.
Motion is made to approve the ordinance adopting the budget for fiscal year October 1, 2024 to September 30, 2025. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey, I second.
There is a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Pardon? All right, there's 4. All opposed? You're abstaining?
Mayor Halsey, I was not part of the budget workshop, so I'm abstaining from my vote.
All right, so 1 abstain. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, council. Item 9D. Hold a public hearing on the proposed tax rate for fiscal year October 1, 2024 to September 30, 2025. And I would like to make a correction right now to item 9D. Item 9D has, part of this is a discuss, consider, and act after the public hearing. That is incorrect. There is no action. This is purely a public hearing on this tax rate. So please make a note of that. Again, so This will be a public hearing on the proposed tax rate for fiscal year October 1, 2024 to September 30, 2025. I open the public hearing at 7:44 p.m. Is there anybody who would like to, Ms. Lamb, please go ahead before.
Oh, I was just going to say that the proposed tax rate is .350073 per $100 of valuation. That includes .314203 for M&O expenditures and .035870 for debt service expenditures. The budget that you passed includes property tax revenues based on this tax rate. And you'll be asked after the hearing, after you've deliberated from what you hear in the hearing, to ratify that tax rate that's in the
That is
budget.
another separate
Yes.
agenda item.
Yes. And there is a speaker that signed up to speak on this item.
Here in the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, well, a public hearing, there is no requirement to sign up. So, so again, I open the public hearing up to anyone who'd like to speak on this item, and you say you have someone who signed up, and who is that, please?
That's Mr. Marty McCoy.
Mr. McCoy.
And Mr. Lyle also signed, or Mr. Kirby also signed up to speak on the tax rate, but he spoke earlier. I'm not sure if he wants to reappear.
Understood. Mr. McCoy, if you'd come to the podium and state your name and address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Martin or Marty McCoy, 205 Arbor Lane, Haslet, Ashmore Farms. So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff, and fellow citizens, in terms of the proposed city tax increase, I would request, I'm sure it's been through your budget workshop and through your business development plan and the planning process. For clarification, would you please provide for us from the proposed tax increase, how much of this is coming from commercial businesses? What's the projected revenue? What's the forecasted income from commercial? And what's the forecasted income or revenue from residential? In addition, would you please further outline how the funds will be allocated and used? For example, from the projected forecasted funds, how much will be used to service debt? How much will be served to be allocated for M&O? And if there's another balance, what are those funds going to be used for? If you'd please make that clear for us as citizens. I'm sure it's already in your notes and in the paperwork. We certainly would appreciate it, knowing where our tax dollars are going and how they're going to be used, particularly since we have debt to service and yet we also want to grow the community. So thank you. Any questions for me before I step away? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Do we have anybody in the audience here who would like to speak on this item? Do we have anybody online who would like to speak to this item?
Nobody has signified they would like to speak.
All right, very good. With no one online requesting to speak and no one in the chambers requesting to speak, I close this public hearing at 7:47 p.m. Move on to item 9E. Discuss, consider, and act regarding an ordinance ratifying ad valorem property tax revenue and tax rate reflected in the adopted fiscal year October 1, 2024 to September 30, 2025 annual budget. This tax rate will raise more taxes for maintenance and operations than last year's tax rate. The tax rate will be raised by 7.99% and will raise taxes for maintenance and operations on a $100,000 home by approximately $7.43 annually. Ms. Lamb.
Yes, once again, this is the tax rate that y'all had acted on before to propose this tax rate, not to exceed the tax rate presented this evening. This is the tax rate that is placed in the proposed budget. The budget outlines how the funds are to be used, all the expenditures for debt and for your general fund purposes. And this is just basically part of the procedure to ratify the tax rate that you have placed and based your budget on.
Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Lamb? Discussion. If there's no discussion, I would entertain a motion, please.
And the motion does have to follow exactly as written there. I move the property tax be increased by a certain amount. It has to be read exactly like that.
Mayor Holsey?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion regarding an ordinance ratifying the ad valorem property tax revenue and tax rate reflected in the, okay. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.350073, which is effectively a 7.99% increase in the tax rate.
Motion is made to approve the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.350073, which is effectively a 7.99% increase in the tax rate. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that.
There is a second. Any further discussion?
And this will be a record vote, so each person will need to vote independently.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Councilman Hort. I'm sorry.
I vote yes.
Councilman Hort votes yes. And I'm going brain dead. Nahara. Thank you.
I vote yes.
Sometimes I forget my wife's name. Councilman Nahara.
Yes. All right.
Councilman Watson.
Yes.
Councilman Ricketts.
Aye and yes.
All right. All 5 members of the council have voted yes in favor. Motion passes. Thank you, council. And just for the members of the public, that concludes all the items with regard to our budget. Going to item 9F. Discuss, consider, and act to vote for one candidate to serve on the Texas Municipal League Region 8 Board of Directors. I will let you know, council, is that you are not required. The city is not required. Does anybody that you have a list of the candidates, anybody that you would want to nominate or to vote for?
Yes, Mayor Halsey?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to cast the majority vote for Troy Dunn.
Troy Dunn. All right, we'll take a vote on Mr. Troy Dunn. Council, motion is made to vote for Mr. Troy Dunn as council member of the city of Haltom City. Is there a second?
As mayor, I'll second that.
There is a second. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. and we will forward that vote to TML. 9G, discuss, consider, and act to appoint and reappoint applicants to serve as members on the city's boards and commissions. And you see the applicants. There's just several. Of course, this is not the only time, but anytime throughout the year we get applicants, we will bring them to the council. So we have on the library board for place 4, we have applicant Kyler Kelly Cruz. And we can take these one at a time. Or we can, let's just go ahead and, there's so few. Under HEDC, this is type A. Under place 2, we have Mr. Stephen Byers. Go to the next page, please. On the is that the only page we have? Okay, so we have these two. Council?
Mayor Halsey, I did have one concern or one question. On the P&Z,
Yes?
no, back up. On the HED, no. Okay, the HCEDC. I know
Yes.
Seraphin Miranda, they asked for reappointment. Is that correct, according to this?
That would need to, Ms. Lamb, can you verify that?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay, because my concern on the P&Z and HCEDC, they have not attended a single meeting of HCEDC and have only attended one meeting of P&Z. So I was just, if they did want to seek reappointment,
They need to apply specifically for that, and really their non-attendance is grounds for dismissal.
Right, so, people were asked if they wanted to be reappointed. They were emailed, correct?
Yes.
Correct, okay. So we assume, since he's on here, replied yes? He would be the only one.
I see that. I don't recall that there was a no reply, and thank you for bringing that up. So we will strike that as he has not replied. I know
Okay.
that we have not got a reply, so that is a vacant position going forward.
On place 6, alt 1 of P&Z, and then place 8, alternate 1 on HCEDC, but everybody else on the list did reply back that they wanted to be reappointed to their positions.
Yes, to my knowledge.
Okay, that was the only one I had a question about, since they had only made one meeting
You are correct.
last year or two.
So if we'll make a note of that, HCEDC, place 8, alternate 1 is vacant.
Vacant, okay.
And also on planning and zoning, place 6, alternate 1 is vacant. And we'll continue sending out notices on our website for anyone who would like to sign up for a board to please apply.
And can we also get the applicants' applications? I think we did last time, so that we can just check out what their first, second, third choices.
Absolutely, and I apologize. I thought that was included in this packet, and evidently it wasn't.
Thank you. Then I would like to make a motion. Oh, no, go ahead.
I have one quick question. Do we have to address these separately because we need to tell the new applicant which place they would be filling?
Well, we're doing it here.
Okay, so
By virtue of what they applied for a specific place.
did they apply for a specific
Yes.
place? Okay.
What you see there, Kelly Cruz applied for Library Board, place 4. Stephen Byers applied for HEDC, place 2.
I see that now. Thank you.
And please, did I interrupt somebody? Is there a motion?
Okay, Mayor Halsey, I'd like to make a motion to approve Ms. Cruz to place 4 of the library board, Mr. Byers to place 2 of HEDC, and all the other reappointments as requested.
Motion is made to appoint Ms. Cruz, place 4, the library board, and Mr. Byers, place 2 of HEDC. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey, I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. I would like, if we could go to item 9J. I'm looking at the time involved. And so if we could go to 9J. Discuss, consider, and act on Encore permit to install overhead power lines along Blue Mountain Road East. All right. In July of 23, we received an application from Encore to install overhead power lines. And if you in your packet, I provided our ordinance, which out of the Chapter 13, Article 9, we state, okay, any of these utilities are going to be underground. The Public Utility Commission has a different requirement. Any public utility like that, at their discretion, they can go overhead. And I've had this discussion with Encore, and it's been for some time. They will be happy to bury that cable, that overhead power, but the city must pay the burial cost in any right-of-way associated with it. So if you would bring up the next item in that package, here is the applicant that they've made application in July 23. Next item, slide. Okay, this is the route. And if you recall, several months ago, we've had a resident or two come to the council to speak with regard to this. And we need to either approve the burial cost or approve this permit. This is the route. It'd be along Blue Mountain Road East. That distance, which is essentially from FM 156 to the east side of the Vines. The purpose of this power by Encore is to backfeed Haslet Park. They have one point of feed, and this would give a dual point of feed, and that is the reason they have requested this. All right, our next item, these are just the construction plans. There are 6 pieces. It breaks that route up. If you go ahead and go on through that, go to the agenda item report. Let's go to that. Here we have Encore provided an estimate to bury that cable, overhead power line, of being the bury cost would be $600,000 that the city would have to pay. Also, the city would have to purchase from landowners any additional right-of-way and or temporary construction easement that would be required associated with that bury. So the absolute minimum cost to the city would be $600,000. Plus whatever that right-of-way is, and that has not been assessed. It could easily be another $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000, depending what that right-of-way is required. So I would add, we need to make a decision now. Do we pay for that line to be buried along Blue Mountain Road West? Or we direct building services to approve this permit? So I opened it up for discussion.
Mayor Holsey.
Yes.
Again, question. I know that we've been discussing on Blue Mound and potential in the future here of doing Blue Mound East and making it a larger roadway. Is this going to have any type of impact if they keep it overhead versus burying the land lines?
That answer would be no. They have to put it within the right-of-way that we designate, whether it's poles or underground.
I just wonder, the room-wise, if I'm trying to picture Blue Mound Road East and saying, you know, if they're wanting to, but the potential of going to a four-lane with turn lanes in there, would there be even enough room to be able to have something overhead?
Currently, our master thoroughfare plan is 3-lane undivided, which defines that right-of-way.
Okay. So we don't have anything engineering-wise or anything that we've even taken a look at this of how?
So that's a different item. That's a different topic of discussion right now. This topic of discussion, regardless of where that right-of-way is.
I think it is part of this
that-
discussion, because if we're going to spend $600,000 now, or we're going to spend $600,000 2 years from now, it doesn't make sense for us to go spend money to chasing after bad money. So that's the reason I think that there's actually a reason that we need to be having a conversation about this now.
I see. Well, the right-of-way would be established in Roman or David. You can make comment to this. The right-of-way that they would either put the poles or the bury would be within the right-of-way designated according to the master thoroughfare plan.
One of the things you have to also remember are where our ordinances are and all the right-of-way. If we change the right-of-way in our ordinance, the utilities, franchise utilities, which Encore is, would have to relocate their lines if we use more right-of-way. That's just the way our system works. So if down the road we did need some more, or it was going to be in conflict, they wouldn't have to move it again.
So addressing this topic, the right-of-way adjustment would be part of, because additionally, it was, a month ago we brought to you to consider putting on the November election is bonds sufficient to build 4 lanes. For that to happen, a master thoroughfare plan change would have to happen as well. So there's a step 1, step 2. Right now, wherever that is, we got 2 topics going right now. I would ask that you first consider, will you consider paying for the burial cost? And I'm going to bring something to your attention, is that if you do it here, are you going to do it throughout the city? Put
Mayor
our
Halsey,
power underground.
Yes. I had a question on the map. Is it on the the north or the south side of Blue Mound Road?
It'd be on the south side. Well, there's some of it, no, it's on the,
I know it looks north, but I thought it
it
was
looks like
south.
it's in the middle of the road, but that's not correct.
Okay, so it is the south side originally.
It'd be on the south side.
Okay.
On the north side, there are power poles, and that belongs to Tri-County. And we've gone down the road, well, cannot you share power poles? And that answer is no.
If we did consider the $600,000 burial cost, what funding would that come from?
From
Or what the
our
options?
reserves.
Would come from reserves?
Would that come in all 1 year?
Yes?
David, I got a question, or Gary, you might know. Okay, so for the power poles, I mean, we're gonna need, you need right of way for either one, correct? Yes or no? I mean, if they do power poles, do we already have the right of way, or do we need to purchase right of way for power poles?
On their current plan that they have up there, they do not require any additional right-of-way. It's actually using the existing right-of-way to carry it out.
That is for power pole placement.
All right.
It's just that the email communication I received from Encore, they did qualify. It's $600,000 to bury it, and any additional right-of-way and temporary construction easement will be required to be purchased by the city.
If right-of-ways are purchased to locate this underground, can that right-of-way be used for any other utilities? So it's once we purchase the right-of-way.
Once you buy right-of-way, it's your right-of-way, and you now have the right to decide what other utilities or your own utilities go in.
Okay. Thank you.
At the moment, we have no idea what the right-of-way cost is gonna be.
We don't know if they need additional right-of-way to bury cable. That analysis has not been done.
It's kind of difficult to make a decision now without knowing the full extent of the cost.
I understand.
And
So
then
what is, I'm looking for your direction, council.
That almost leads more to the answer of what you just said right there. The fact that it's going to be a $600,000 expense to the citizens for potentially having to, in the future, widen the road again, which would then require the city to dig up the utilities and move them even farther again, as he stated. And, tying back to it, which, I don't think any of us really like the idea of the 4-lane, $55 million Blue Mountain Road expansion and doubling everybody's taxes beyond belief. But the fact that we initially, the idea of a 4-lane road is most likely going to be the direction the city's going to have to go with the amount of growth that we're showing. So if we're only showing a master plan for a 3-lane now, it makes zero sense to spend $600,000 when potentially and most likely we're going to go to a 4-lane road and have to get more easement and take on not just the expense of acquiring that, but then the expense of digging up and moving utilities. So I don't see why we would spend the money to bury it, in my opinion.
I'm kind of thinking the other side, yes, it is a large cost, but as someone who has over, power lines and the concerns and issues, I mean, they should be buried everywhere. And that's even what it says. And when is that road going to be done? I mean, I think it's a cost worth considering. Is an option to deny the permit and then pursue right away possible donations and see some more costs? Can we deny the permit, or do we have to have one or the other this evening?
Mr. Page, maybe you can help us out. So here's a permit we've had from franchise utility provider. We've been holding it for more than a year. They've been patient on that. If we continue to hold it for however long, what will we be confronted with?
It would depend on how hard the agency wants to come down. Ultimately, since we're a subdivision of the state, whatever the state and the state agencies and the state law is going to trump whatever our ordinances say. And so Encore having pretty much being given an exception to all local regulations dealing with underground utility lines, we're not going to have the authority to continue holding up that permit. And so at some point Encore could, force us to essentially, probably by taking us to court or somehow force us to issue that permit, because they have to be allowed to install the service lines, the power lines that is required to service their their customers. And so unfortunately, we don't really have the authority to do much with that. And so I think that's why the point of tonight is to kind of say, okay, do we want to pursue the option of saying, yes, we're going to allow for you to come in, but we're going to pay for that underground cost plus whatever right of way it may be, or are we going to simply just approve the permit, which, because our ordinances don't allow for it, that's why it's having to come to the council to kind of override what's in our ordinances. So there is the potential, I don't know, litigation, but there would be ways, legal maneuvers that Encore would have to force our hand on this.
Now, Mr. Mayor, do we know, is this particular Encore line going to service any Haslet residents?
Oh, absolutely, Haslet Park.
Okay.
It is for, I don't know if their intent is to serve any other subdivisions within Haslet, but I know this was expressly brought to provide a feed, a back feed, a secondary feed for Haslet Park specific. And that's in the middle of our city. And it is, yes, they are Haslet residents. And it's exclusively for that. No non-residential service off this.
So one question I got on, looking at the map, on the west end of it and on the east end of it, what is it that it's tying into? Is there existing power poles on the west side? Or
if you would go to the, back to the red line map.
Yeah, that's the best one there.
And right here, from this point, we didn't show the entire route, but it would go north from there and feed into Haslet Park. But as far as the berry cost, that's only associated with Blue Mountain Road East.
So the piece going north is already in places simply to tie in?
There would be new poles set, and those would be overhead. This is not bearing. This is only bearing
for the piece of Blue Mountain.
Shown this portion of the route.
I mean, that's what I thought we had the ordinance in there for, was try to clean up our city a little bit, frankly. I thought that's what.
Well, I think at the time, I don't know at the time when that was written, did the city understand, they'll bury it, but you're going to pay for it, and how much that is. So, not being able to go back in time and know what that frame of mind is just presenting it now. They will bury it. City of Haslet pays all associated costs with burying that power line. From that point north, once they cross to get on the north side of Blue Mountain Road and go north to make their way to Haslet Park, all of that will be overhead power lines. So please understand, this is the $600,000, and the discussion was with along Blue Mountain Road East only.
Okay, I just want to make one clarification, and maybe it's to you, Mr. Rogers. I think I heard you saying, and also what Councilman Watkins said. If we bury it now, and we could use it, potentially for both the Encore and the Tri-County, we could use it for whatever we wanted down the road?
No. Encore would own that. Tri-County has theirs on the north side. This is exclusive route for Encore only.
So when we bury lines, I guess I'm just getting an understanding stuff. If a line's buried and we establish some type of piping or anything underground, that's can only be used by one.
It would depend on what Encore requested, and so some utility companies require that it be an exclusive easement, meaning that no other utility line or anything else could be run through that. And so I haven't had the discussions with Encore, and so I don't know what they would be requesting of it. But it is possible that it would be an exclusive easement or an exclusive area versus a non-exclusive, meaning that other lines could be run through there.
So I was taking it as would the power company share a conduit? And that answer is no. They would not share a conduit. Now, could they be in the same right-of-way? Possibly. Possibly. I don't know that answer specific. So may I suggest that we'll take down your questions and what you would like to know.
Okay.
And if you would email those specifics to the mayor, those specific questions, and we will bring this back on the agenda October the 7th, I think it is. Is it the 7th or 6th?
Okay. I have one more clarification that and you might have to, because it went off of what Mr. Rogers says. So say we bury this now and say we need to do another line. I thought he said that then if we buried it, then it's on Encore to actually pay that expense. But what I was hearing Councilman Watkins saying is if we bury it now and they have to actually move it, that we would have to pay again.
And that's true for any utility.
No? That's
Oh,
what I'm saying. That's
Our
what,
franchise utility agreement for our right-of-way, the city's right-of-way, is if we have to have anything, same when we have, in our agreements with TxDOT, in their right-of-way, if they widen 156 tomorrow, we have to move our lines. Tri-County has to, Encore has to, all AT&T, everybody has to move their stuff to the new right-of-way line. That's the way franchise utilities work, whether it be the cities or it be theirs. If we widen that road, the utilities will have to move back to whatever the new right-of-way line would be,
Understood. Thank you.
as needed. Some lines, especially electric, can be under roadways more often. They don't tend to have to get into them as often. They just have to have manhole access. But they do have to, for all their switch gears, all those things, those do have to have an easement in a spot, a piece of plot of land that they sit on. That's usually the biggest thing you have to deal with in moving underground electric.
I think what he was trying to get for clarification was the expense would fall onto the city.
No. Once they're in, you give them, just like now, you put the poles in there. If you widen the road, they gotta pick their poles up and move them back if you've gotta remove it
At their expense?
at their expense. Once that one original deal is one time only, that's it, as long as it's there. But once you need it moved, they put it back in like kind. Same thing with AT&T. They got duct work running down along Blue Mountain. They would have to move it. One source has a duct down there. They'd dig it up, they move it over.
So there wouldn't be an additional $600,000 expense?
No.
Okay.
Those don't have to be done in those kind of deals.
Well, that makes a big
Certain
difference then.
Government projects by TxDOT and stuff, there are some things that get into all kinds of other mess.
But this is not considered, this is not a TxDOT
No,
project.
this is a
So a
regular one.
municipality, we move or expand our roadway, okay, utilities, you need to move out. And within a municipality project, you're saying that the utility pays for that.
Yeah, we've had that happen. We've already used it before on Intermodal Parkway. When we widened it out to the next set of roads, there were some cables and things that had to be picked and moved over, out of the way.
Understood.
Just one clarification. So if we decide not to bury it, do we incur any cost at all?
No,
So
you
no
do not.
cost at all.
If it goes overhead, it's all 100% their cost.
So no right-of-way costs and no cost, nothing at all.
Any right-of-way that they would need for that one, they have to go after.
So let's say we go that route and then they decide to expand the road, I don't know, 4 years later, and then we decide to bury this line.
It could be buried at that time.
At that time, when I think it makes more sense
A
to
lot
do
of
it that way,
times,
even though I
that's-
don't like overhead
That's the
power
way
lines.
you would be doing, probably like if you were doing something in Haslet Park and you wanted to do a major project, rebuild everything in there, storm drain, all this kind of stuff, while you got everything all tore up, everything's being redone, you'd probably go in there and run your duct worked along there to take power back underground and then clean things up. But, you know, big massive project, but that's how they kind of do that in most places.
I may not have any additional questions, Mr. Mayor, but I just have one last clarification, or one last timeline, I guess. we're talking about right-of-way. I know that there's existing right-of-way probably on the south side of that roadway. How long, or would it take to see, would it make sense to actually, would we have to have any more right-of-way at that point? Does that make sense? But I don't think we could get that by
For
the
the
next, by the,
pole, for the pole installation,
Pole or-
that answer is no, we would not.
yeah, but for buried
For
installation.
buried, since they put that in their letter as a qualifier, I don't know. Mr. Rogers?
I would say probably yes, there would be some, because even though the right of way is big enough, like I said, their switch gears and stuff, those all have to sit in something else, and they're not usually sitting right on top of, they sit slightly backed out of the way of the right of way, and they like to have an actual pad of land sitting around it that they can get out and work in.
All right, I would suggest this, council, if you're entertaining to pay for this burial cost along Blue Mound Road East, is that will respond back, Mr. Rogers and I, to Encore and say the city is entertaining, would like to entertain the cost of that, but we need to know what additional right-of-way and construction easement is required, because that could easily be 2, 3, 4, 5, however much money. It could go from 600 to to $1 million. We don't know. And so, I tell you what, that's what we'll do. Appears that council is entertaining this cost, but you need more information to get to qualify what that amount will be. All right then. So I would like to move on to our next item. If you have any specific questions or you email the mayor's office, copy the city secretary. All right then. I would like to, Roman, how long do you think your presentation is? I mean, just the presentation itself, 15 minutes, 20 minutes? Okay, I know that, and then I know there's going to be discussion after that. I would like to go ahead and take item 9I, because I think that we have one or two folks here to speak on that. So this is discuss, consider, and act on the Vine subdivision HOA resident petition for a speed hump on Syracuse Street. This petition was submitted by the HOA on behalf of the residents that signed that petition. Go ahead and bring that petition up. That was addressed to me. If we would go down, here's the citation. Y'all have all reviewed that with regard to, go ahead and scroll on down. And that's the, okay. Slow down and pause. Okay, you can scroll down. Okay, is this there's where they're requesting a speed hump. You're looking at the vines. That's from Verona over, includes Sicily and this gas well road. There's the speed hump location that's being requested. They have a playground. In fact, that is both here just to the north on Syracuse. I think that is their primary concern. If you scroll down, this is Mr. Tucker. And supplied in your agenda was the traffic calming policy. And there are certain criteria. Again, it's a policy. It's not an ordinance. It's a policy. Mr. Tucker did his analysis. Item D specifically, the street must not be classified as a primary route by either police department or fire department. For emergency response vehicles, Mr. Tucker's noted it went to the fire department, and you do have the fire department's review. Also on item H, the citing it must be longer than 2,500 feet. It states that that portion of Syracuse within the vines is 650 feet long. So it does not meet that particular criteria. Also on J, states that the 85th percentile speed of vehicles traveling on the street exceed the posted speed limit by at least 5 miles per hour, or the street daily traffic volume exceeds 500 vehicle trips per day. All right, based on the Mr. Tucker's response, based on the data collected, the 85th percentile is 28 miles per hour. Below, that's what's cited in the policy. And the average daily traffic volume has 433 vehicle count. That's the average, which is below the 500 cited in the policy, but it has a peak day of 512 vehicles. If you go to the next one, is the fire department. Here is, excuse me, let's go ahead and while we're back at, let's go to the fire department review on point D of the policy. Resolution stipulates that the street must not be a primary route for emergency response. However, Waterleaf and Syracuse roads serve as collector streets. This is the fire department's viewpoint. And the primary response routes for the neighborhoods would be of Watercrest, or these are primary response routes for Watercrest and the Vines. Item of point H of the policy says the resolution requires the street be longer than 2,500 feet and connected to at least 2 principal, major, or minor arterials. The fire department's analysis, Syracuse does not meet the connection requirements to any of the specified types. If you go back up to the Public Works analysis, to the hump itself and the cost, if you consider this, council, the Public Works recommends a rubber speed hump, $4,100, associated signage, $1,500, for a total cost of $5,607. And if you scroll down, other speed humps we have in the city are asphalt. These are concrete streets, and asphalt on top of concrete just doesn't work too well. It'd be too much of a maintenance item. This would be a rubber type device, same dimensions. They would be anchored into the concrete, but also easily removable. If we would go to, I really think that's all as far as presentation. Do we have any speakers on this? I think you said you did.
Yes, sir. The first speaker that I have is Mr. Bill Lyle.
Good evening. My name is William Lyle. I live at 2047 Sicily Lane, which intersects Syracuse at the bottom of the hill.
the main problem we've got, and I understand all the restrictions and all the rules and everything, but the main problem we have is Watercrest sits about 100 feet above us. So Syracuse coming down that hill, people, the contractors and the residents come racing down that hill. We complained for years about getting, you know, we tried to get some police presence out there, and understandably, you don't have the manpower to give us our own private policemen to control the traffic on that road. So we had speed limits put in, and we also had a stop sign put in on Syracuse, at the corner of Syracuse and Sicily Road. Now, I live two houses down from the intersection, so I see this thing every single day. People come down that road, and even at 6 o'clock tonight, as I was coming over here, the playground it's like we've got the houses here, the street, the playground, the fishing hole, and the mailboxes. They're all on the other side of the street. So you got to cross the street to get your mail. You got to cross the street to go fishing. You got to cross the street to go to the playground. And people come screaming down that hill. If they stop at all, it's, you know, you can almost hear the tires screeching as they slam on the brakes because they don't see the stop sign till they get halfway down the hill. Tonight at 6 o'clock, checking the mail, and here comes this car down, just ignored the stop sign, everything. He just came screaming down the hill and went all the way over, you know, and nobody's gotten hit yet. There hasn't been any car wrecks, so we don't have anything to prove that it's a hazard other than living there and watching these cars use that as a racetrack. And we need something to slow them down. We can't use the cops, you know, and I understand why. It's unfortunate, but I understand why. Speed limit sign didn't help. Stop sign didn't help. It helped, but it didn't solve the problem. The only way to solve that problem is to put a speed bump in there so that people will tear their car up if they go over it too fast. That's why we want the speed bump. Got any questions?
Very good. Thank you, sir. Do we have any other speakers?
Yes, sir. Matthew Sandberg.
Mr. Sandberg, if you would state your name and address.
Yeah, Matt Sandberg, 2004 Verona. So, yeah, I'm here in favor for this as well. I live just up the hill. My backyard looks over this, so it's pretty bad. The speed study that was done, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for getting that together. Yeah, 55, 47, 46, we had somebody screaming by at 69 miles an hour speed study. You know, what the gentleman before me just said is absolutely true. People are screaming through here. There's a playground right there. There's plans. We're potentially thinking to expand that area. We got the community mailboxes. Many of us ride our bikes or take our kids down the road to get down here. So stop signs aren't working. And I think the other thing I just wanted to point out is basically like we got a problem is because of the Blue Mountain Road traffic, Google Maps routes traffic through the neighborhood right now. So when you're talking about the traffic volume coming through the neighborhood, a lot of it is because people are shortcutting through the neighborhood to get over to that stop sign just a bit of a way. It lets them cut in line on the road. So they're trying to hurry through the neighborhood. So I don't even think it's residents or contractors doing this. It's people outside of the neighborhood. So yeah, just hoping we can do something about this. Like I said, we don't have any accidents or kids who have been hit yet, but I think it's just a matter of time. I sit out in my back patio, and it's a kind of a sick game to watch it. Everybody drives down here, and it's like every other car runs that stop sign. Nobody does anything. And the way these hills are situated as they're coming down, it's not just the hill on the main road where they gain speed. There's hills coming down towards this intersection, and it's not a matter of time before a kid coming down a bike or something goes through that stop sign. Somebody will stop and hits them. So happy to answer any questions, but yeah, here hoping that y'all will vote in favor of that speed bump. The community is really hoping we can get something done here.
Very good. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
James, if you would go back to that map where you showed you where Public Works had set the radar. Okay, this is now the data collected, and that's below this is eastbound. So if you, from the left side of your screen, you see the car in the picture on Syracuse. So they're traveling east. Preliminary measurements were done both eastbound and westbound. The higher speeds were the eastbound coming off the hill through going to the east. So go ahead and describe where you set the trailer, James.
Yes, sir. This arrow here, you can actually see it from the aerial. There is a trailer in this area right here, and it roughly picks up this area for the detection zone. When we set it out, we typically calibrate it with a tuning fork that comes with it from the manufacturer for that purpose, and then we also field do it by our own vehicles, making sure it's showing accurate speeds.
All right, very good. If you would scroll down. Here was, again, the by day, the vehicle count coming through. That's over a 24-hour period. Next slide. This is the daily average speed versus 85th percentile. This really paints kind of a different picture, but what the raw data says. But nonetheless, these are absolute averages. If you just go next slide. Okay, this and all other slides below it are the raw data. And these are, here's what these slides are pointing out. The green line is the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit. And all those that you see above that line are above that speed limit. But what we're noting is the peak speed of individual drivers. And here you have 55. Go to the next page. And some summary notes. The average speeds throughout the day was 18 miles an hour. The average speed of travelers above 30 was 35 miles an hour. 22 out of the 512 drivers traveled over the speed limit. And we have that kind of a summary for each slide. If you were to scroll on down, here you have a peak speed on this Saturday of 47. Scroll down, peak speed 46, and you see the other peak speeds along with that. But next page, next graph, there on Monday. Monday's a calmer day, it looks like. I guess people aren't that anxious to get back to work. But Monday, show me Monday.
One thing I noticed,
There.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
is it looks like it's the same guy at the same time every day.
Maybe we need to get a camera out there. Okay, next slide. 42 miles an hour peak. Next slide. 39. Next slide. 69. I think that's the end of it there. So that was the data, and council, it's yours.
Mr. Mayor, I do have one question, and maybe can answer from some of the residents and everything. I know that our own neighborhood, from our own HOA, has had to look at some of these things ourselves, but we've paid for it ourselves through our HOA fees. Does the HOA address this in any way besides it bringing up to the city?
I've worked with Gene, who submitted this, to actually collect the signatures and everything like that. So, I mean, we were just told that it had to be coming through the city, that it's city-owned roads, and that we had to come through y'all. So otherwise, we would have actioned on it ourselves. So
The policy states that the city will pay for it. The policy also states if the city does not have the funds to install it as soon as the neighborhood would like it, that the neighborhood is welcome to pay for it themselves. But the policy states that the city will pay for it.
I just saw that it was like, only around the $4,000 probably one
And
time.
maybe Northland
So-
didn't know about our policy. I'm sure if they did, they wouldn't have, they would have come and asked us.
Ours is a little bit more extensive on cameras and that type of thing because of stealing and that type of thing too, so.
I also think it sounds like we might want to look into some no cut-through signs as well, possibly in the future, if people are cutting through their neighborhood.
Well,
I'm ready to make a motion if
I see
anybody,
some Ashmore Farms residents that's saying that doesn't work.
I don't think the signs are gonna work.
I'm ready to make a motion unless you want to continue to talk.
I got a question, just real quick. So, and I think y'all said this, and I may have missed it. Are there stop signs at Syracuse and Sicily Lane? Always stop.
There are, and it just, I know this was very focused on speed, but another problem though is that a lot of people are going the speed limit without slowing down at all at those stop signs, so that's another thing we would hope the speed bump would rectify, is getting people to slow down and start to honor those stop signs for fear of hitting children or other people trying to cross over to those, all of our community mailboxes are right there.
Well, no, I completely understand. I mean, when you got a playground right there, that's obviously safety's primary concern. I don't want to get hit, but I dang sure don't want to see a kid get hit. But, in addition to, what we do with the speed bump, maybe we even entertain looking at the lighted stoplights that have the red flashing lights on them that I can guarantee, from my personal experience, those catch your attention when you're coming down a road, anytime you see a flashing light. But I'd say, maybe that's just I'm not going to say an alternative, but maybe part of the solution with something else, in addition to.
I heard someone was ready to make a motion.
One last question, I think.
Yeah, no, it was just in regards to the public safety side of it. It doesn't sound like the fire department has any problems with it other than 2 points they brought up, the length of the road and the other issue. My only question was there any points of concern from the fire department from a safety standpoint of the neighborhood by putting these bumps in? Because other than that, I think we should give them the speed bumps they want.
They had no issue with the installation of the speed hump. Not with. They're just reading the criteria and making it okay. Well, this street doesn't have these connector type characteristics.
One last question, and again, I'm all for this because of the safety wise, but I just wanted to make sure, maybe from Mr. Tucker, is I'm looking at the speed humps here. I know what we put on out there on Blue Mound itself. It says that these will slow it down between 10 to 20. I'm listening to the residents. Do we have any type of knowing that this will be effective?
We can just specify the dimensions of it, the height and the width, to be the same as what we have on Blue Mound Road East.
So it will be?
That will.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
That
mention.
will.
Yeah.
So these are general drawings, but we can specify the height and the width of these speed humps.
All right, Mayor Holdy, I'm prepared to make a motion unless.
Please.
I would like to make a motion to approve the speed hump on Syracuse Street for the Vine subdivision.
Motion is made to approve the speed hump on Syracuse Street for the Vine subdivision. Is there a second?
Yeah, Mayor, I'll second that.
There's a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, council.
Thank you very much. Can I ask one question? How long will it take?
Tomorrow. Plus,
Good enough.
plus 2 months.
Okay.
Well, we'll get it ordered very soon.
Okay, great.
We'll keep you posted.
Thank you very much, y'all.
All right, council, I would like to take a 2-minute break, 3-minute break. I need to visit the restroom facilities. So at 8:48 p.m., we'd like to just pause the open meeting to take a break, and then we'll resume, make it back. Okay, thank you. The time is 9:55, and we are resuming the open meeting from our quick little break. All right, then. Let's go to item 9H. Discuss, consider, and act on proposed ordinance amending the water and sewer rates of Appendix A, fee schedule of the City of Haslet Code of Ordinances. Roman is one of our engineers from Belchip and Associates, and he has a presentation with regard to the water and sewer rates.
Council members, Mayor, good evening. My name is Roman Boydsoff. I am with Belchip and Associates, and I'm here to give you a big picture overview of our study analysis results. Into it. Haslet is part of two large regional systems, water and the sewer regional systems. You are part of the large Trinity River Authority wholesale wastewater provider system. It serves 8 communities in total. I will dive into it a little bit more here in a minute. You also part of the, next slide please, part of the larger, even larger regional wholesale water system, which is supplied by the City of Fort Worth. You are located right smack in the middle, that little red blob right there. All the wholesale customers are the light yellow color, and everything in orange is the actual direct retail customers of the City of Fort Worth. So, next slide, please. Here's the summary of our background and findings. Obviously, it's not a surprise to any of you. It's been a booming growth here in North Texas, and it has created overwhelming need for infrastructure improvements and expansion. For example, your regional wholesale provider, TRA, just approved a $422 million expansion program of their facilities. Most of that money is going towards their Denton Creek plant, where all the flows are flowing to, but it also includes about $80 million worth of improvements to the collection system. Fort Worth, they approved a few years back a booming $1.03 billion water capital improvement plan just for their water, and a lot of it has to deal with the delivery and storage and treatment of the water for wholesale customers and retail customers. There's some overlap in that. Now, you are not alone. You just approved recently a bond series 2022, which included $8 million worth of water capital improvements and $4.5 million of sewer capital improvements. With that said, obviously the Haslet customer count has increased threefold since 2019. In 5 years, number of customers here in Haslet has tripled. Pretty impressive number. Haslet Water and Sewer Department expenses has increased proportionally with demand. And one of the most important key feature findings that we'll want to stress and point out is that we discovered that historically the sewer system side of the department has been subsidized by the water revenues and has been subsidized for at least 5 years. That's why our study outlook, we went back in detail and analyzed the last 5 years, and it was clearly to us, it was clearly evident that it's been subsidized and the money's been coming from the water side to cover the sewer expenses. So if the current rates stay where they are, your water and sewer reserves will be depleted within the next 5 years, which may require a subsidy from the ABRA fund to cover those expenses, unless an action is taken to address this deficits on the sewer system side. Next slide, please. The last time that a detailed comprehensive study was 10 years ago, in 2014. Since then, the rates have been looked at and amended 5 years ago. No rate adjustments has been since 2019. This study, and I want to point out that besides just the engineering department, there's been a lot of effort put in by the finance department, by the building permit department, by public works. So a lot of people worked on this and compiled this data for my analysis. So we've been at it for over a year. We also seen or witnessing, we experience in times where there's a lot of changes in the community due to growth, different kind of demands, different kind of patterns to people's water usage and such. But all of the study includes a lot of customer data that we compiled, and obviously it also includes all the operating and maintenance costs for the departments, and it addresses the latest capital improvement needs and projects and costs and debt service that's associated with it as well. Let's go to the next section of the presentation and talk a little bit more about our, let's see, so once we completed the study, and while we were working on it, we kept these goals and objectives in mind as high priority. Is once we knew that there is a shortage on the sewer system, obviously the goal was there to close that gap first. We need to eliminate the sewer system revenue deficit. That would be number one priority, number one step in the water sewer department. Once that gap is closed, we want to ensure that moving forward, it is staying self-sustaining. We don't have to dip back into the water or rely on the water revenue. Then another very important part of any water sewer fund is obviously build up and maintain reserves, your savings for unforeseen expenditures. Once those three critical steps are taken care of, going forward, we strongly recommend that the annual review of the water system rate model that we have built is looked at and the rates adjusted as needed, obviously. You don't want to wait another 5 years, basically, to do this again. If during our annual review we see that there is some discrepancy in numbers or there is red flags raised, we do strongly recommend that another comprehensive study is done, but please don't wait longer than 5 years, as we believe it's critical to do it at least every 5 years, irrelevant of an annual review analysis. Okay. So let's go to my next section of the presentation. The wastewater, we'll talk about this more in detail. Like I mentioned earlier, you are part of the TRA regional water sewer system, It does include 9 total customers. Haslet, as you can see right there at the very bottom southwestern portion. It's a pretty large plant that's about to be expanded and doubled in capacity with this bond that's been proposed by TRA. You do have several projects on the books that are directly affecting the capital improvement plan that we have in place as well. But with the size of this large system, obviously comes the cost. And what we have received, as you can see on the next slide, is the projected rate increase that TRA is planning on implementing. This is the graph just generally showing their projected next 5-year expense and what it's going to go up to based on the treatment of 1,000 gallons of sewer at their plant. So this takes into account expanding their collection system, which is their mains that take on the sewer flows from the city of Haslet and other entities, and then deliver it to the treatment plant, and obviously treat it and operate with all the latest state compliances. And it's necessitated, obviously, by the member city rate increases. So a substantial rate increase for all member cities has been levied and has been already agreed by the TRA and will be passed on to the city of Haslet, including. As you can see, that it has been recently, the cost of that treatment and collection treatment has been around $7 to $8, and it's been projected or expected to go up to as high as to $16 so per 1,000 gallons. So we're probably going to see these rates doubling in the next 5 years or less. Now let's go to the next section of the water. Once again, we are part of the original City of Fort Worth wholesale water system. They have also a lot of projects and necessary expansions on the books. The next slides kind of summarizing the same, what the TRA is going through. It's basically necessitating a lot of necessary infrastructure improvements that has to be put in place. Now, the impact of those improvements to the overall existing state of a system of City of Fort Worth is not as large as TRA in comparison, just because the City of Fort Worth existing system is much bigger in size, and this new growth is the costs of this project is spread among a bigger pool of members, but they still to be somewhat substantial. The expected costs are 5 to 7% on the water sale size. Now let's talk about the actual city water and sewer department itself for City of Haslet. This is just a summary, just to kind of give you an overall idea of what rates, how fast, and from what number of customers back in 2020 you went to in the current year of 2025, or projected fiscal year 2025. So you went, for example, on the residential customers from 800 5 years ago to 2,400 almost this year. Almost 1,564 customers. Those are all new houses that have been built, constructed, and occupied or to be occupied by the new residents. So that's almost 3 times customer growth rate increase in the last 5 years, once again. And then you see the comparison for residential sewer customers. It's mirrors the water very closely. And the commercial, it's not as high, but it still is a significant growth in the commercial customers as well. As you can see, they went up almost 50% as far as the customers go. Next slide, let's see. We given you overall a wholesale costs summary. So the costs, obviously, with all the growth that we experienced, obviously, the cost in wholesale has increased as well, expense. The Fort Worth costs doubled. We buying and providing service to many more customers, which is increasing the costs on the O&M side. The sewer has more than increased by 2.5 times, so 250%. Customers increased, the department wholesale costs increased, and then the next slide, with the recent bond issuance, the debt service payment has increased as well. As you can see, it used to be for a long time about $235,000 per year, and now it's projected to be at least $819,000. So that's about 3.5 times increase. And The next slide summarizes essentially all of these increases, all these components together in summary. As you can see, 5 years ago, the total David's operating water and sewer system budget was at 2.45, about just under 2.5 million, and it is projected, or was just adopted by you earlier today, at 7.6 million, 3 times higher than it was 5 years ago. So the growth has been tremendous. With that, obviously the expenses associated with this has increased tremendously as well. Everything in proportion increased pretty rapid rates of about 3 times fold. The next slide, just more for informational purposes, to show you the breakdown of cost share of each water on the left and sewer system side on the right. Just to give you an idea that out of all the expense for the water system, for example, about a third of it is the wholesale cost associated with purchasing water from Fort Worth, and half of it is the in-house O&M expense, and then there's the debt component. And for sewer, as you can see, the wholesale cost sewer expense is much greater. Number one, it is higher per capita, and number two, that 75% component of wholesale cost has the TRA in-house O&M cost component built into it. In whole, it takes a lot more resources to operate and maintain a water system. But you're still paying it in your sewer rates to the wholesale provider, because essentially their fees include that O&M on their side that they experience. On the next slide, I think this is the one we just looked at. Let's keep going, keep going. There we go. So now we're looking at, this is a financial summary. So real big picture here. This shows, for the projected year, this shows a comparison of projected revenue versus expected expense for water and sewer system side. As you can see, it is projected that we're going to have a surplus of about $1 million on the water system side, which is equivalent to about 20% of the overall water system expense. On the sewer system side, projecting that you will experience about $860,000 shortage, or equivalent to 60% of overall cost of the sewer system. And that's been a pretty common historic trend for the city, is you bring in just enough water in surplus on the, you just bring enough surplus on the water side to cover the expense on the sewer side, with very little left to go into the reserves. Now, with rates that TRA is telling us are going to be doubling, and Fort Worth rates expected to go 5%, this is going to be even harder to maintain at the break-even point. If I'll be surprised if any at all you'll be able to maintain. And it is critical to stress once again that it is a very good practice and strongly encouraged that the city builds up and maintains the reserves, because those reserve funds, I made some notes on the bottom there, I've used typically for unexpected system repairs, system catastrophic failures, or future capital projects, debt service, etc. So after analyzing your expenses and the city's expenses and the city's revenues, and looking at next year, it's obvious that the rate needs to be adjusted, especially on the sewer side, to address this discrepancy in revenue versus expense, and address the bump of 5 to 7% on the water side that Fort Worth told us that's coming your way. So if we go to the next slide, we went back and played with a couple scenarios on the recommended rate increases and determined that it is necessary, if you go to the next slide, please, right there, it would be necessary in order to make sure that the sewer system fund the gap is closed and it stays self-sustaining and the water stays self-sustaining where it is. It would take a 70% rate increase on the sewer side and a 5% rate increase on the water side. Right here is a chart that summarizes consumption and average for a typical residential customer who, on average, buys about 12,500 gallons of water per month and maintains a winter average of a sewer flow of 6,500 gallons. The current total monthly charge for water for that amount of gallons purchased of $82 would increase by 5% or by $4 and would go up to about $86.92. And the current average residential customer sewer bill of $48.41 would increase by 70% or by $33.89 for a total of $82.30. If we go to next slide, what we've done is we compiled a comparison chart of, these are all City of Fort Worth wholesale customers, just like City of Haslet. So they all purchase water from Fort Worth and use it to supply to its customers. So we went to each individual rate structure for each one of the cities and calculated what that charge would be if they were to buy 12,500 gallons of water in that particular city. So if you're in Haslet under current rates, you would pay, your total charge would be $83.30. You would be fifth on that list, below average. And if you, to increase it by 5%, your ranking would stay the same. You still would be below average. And this is how it compares to these other cities. And as you can see, the cities that are below or even cheaper in charges, smaller in charge than Haslet, are pretty well built out and established. They're not in the middle of experiencing a growth just like you are and playing catch up with the infrastructure needs. I think it's pretty important to point out. Cities like Northlake, Westlake, Justin, Alita, they're in the same boat, same spot, and their charges are much higher. Then on the next slide, we did the same comparison for sewer charge. So yeah, these are all of the Denton Creek regional wastewater wholesale customers. And Haslet currently ranks the lowest. Total charge for Haslet would be $48.41 for a typical residential customer. With proposed 70% rate increase, it would bump you up to above average to $82.30. And the charge, the rate structure that you have in place is exact the same as all the other cities have. It's a tiered structure, and it's got two major components. It's got a base charge, which is a fixed number, and it's got the volume charge. And that's where we are on this. I'm happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you, Roman. Council, you got any specific questions with regard to what Roman has presented here? Which again, this has taken more than a year to compile. A lot of man hours and a lot of detailed data went into this. And it's not surprising to see, of course, you can see it in past budgets, how the water's been subsidizing the sewer. And at this point in time, yeah, 70% sounds a lot, but you know, you look at for a household for common use, I think it was $38 to increase. That would be the, I'll say, average household increase. But the more important thing is look at those folks, you know, at the higher rates. The more that's delayed, the higher the rate adjustment is going to have to be when it gets addressed. Personally, as the budget officer and being the mayor, it's been delayed, but it's necessary. One is from transparency aspect. The sewer's not free. It's getting paid for, but we're using water revenue to pay for that. So there's two things come to my mind. Well, one is, does everybody know we're paying for the sewer using water rates? The other is doing that practice is we have both systems are separate, excuse me, what word is I want to use? I used it the other day. Marcy, help me out. Self-sustaining funds.
Yes.
Each one is. Now, our water and sewer is combined, but we will be, going forward, we'll have them broke out as, a sub to the water sewer fund, so we can easily track, and which we can now going back, the cost of water, the cost of sewer, and that they need to be and should be and are intended to be self-sustaining. That's why we have two major parts of our budget, the general fund and the water and sewer. That's the two major components of our budget. And using the water revenue to offset the sewer cost is depleted, and it is depleting our revenue. It is recommended that 50% reserves in both systems be built up and maintained. And Marcy can speak a little bit to this by the outside experiences, but that's our goal. Right now, all we have is a 20% reserve in water and nothing in sewer, nothing. And so I think on transparency and planning and moving ahead, Haslet's in a very good position right now. We are in a very good position overall. And addressing these type of things as we move forward avoids, I'll say, financial shock to our city and our taxpayers that other cities around us have experienced because delayed decisions. So I would urge you to consider these cost rates. Marcy, with regard to water and sewer reserve amounts, from your perspective, can you share with us?
Yes, Roman mentioned earlier there's just several different types of reasons for why you need to maintain a reserve, particularly in an environment like we have where we're experiencing rapid growth, but we're not done yet. And a lot of our growth is still going to happen along our Westport Parkway corridor. And, you know, there's several other parts of the city yet to still be built out. There are numerous unknowns. You know, just in our own project with our fire station expansion, we identified additional water sewer needs that we had. There's always, you know, the unknown when you come in there. You could have a catastrophic failure. You need to have some type of reserve for, you know, some future capital projects that may not rise to the level of actually doing a bond issue or a CO issue for those. You could use those reserves to fund some short-term, you know, capital needs that you have. You also have a possibility of using some of your reserves for rate stabilization purposes, such as when you have a period of growth like we have right now. Had we had sufficient reserves, we might have been able to soften this blow and not have to, you know, go for the full 70%. So there's several ways you can utilize reserve funds. You know, obviously, you know, setting aside for an emergency should you need to, you know, if you had revenues not coming in for a period of time, you would, you know, that's the main purpose. You would use those reserves and you know, the rainy day scenario. But there are several other ways you can use your reserve funds as a tool, and it's just smart fiscal practice, particularly in your proprietary funds, which this is how they're treated in accounting terms, to have those reserves.
I've got a question, couple of questions. Is it common for cities to do this, to use the water and sewer or vice versa to subsidize the other? Or if not, then why did we do that or Haslet in the past? And
No,
it's just
it's
now
not.
coming to light.
No, it's not. No, it's not common, and I can't answer why. So all we have is what we have today, and we're moving forward.
And then the other question is, was there any consideration to the growth that we still have to go in this 70 or 80, what was it, 70% increase that you're recommending?
Well, and I think that's why it's strongly recommended to look at it on an annual basis, because with what we know the TRA is planning to do, you saw that little chart where they're saying our charges most likely will keep going up every year.
Right.
This last year, it went from $7.50 per thousand to $11. That was on 50%.
Well, I'm looking at it from a perspective, okay, now you have more houses, we're more built out, and the pool is expanded as far as who's contributing to pay for this, right? So to me, it would seem like, okay, let's say 10 years from now, we're built out, all the houses are complete, there's very little room for growth, and now you have the pool that's bigger that's paying into the system. Was that considered in this study? As far as, okay,
I think I understand your question. No, this is not charging anything for future. This is trying to balance our funds, our two systems as they are now.
Okay,
we didn't look out 10 years, well, we need to charge extra for 8 years from now.
Okay, then the question is it enough with the growth that we still have to go with this increase?
The rates, the TRA rate increases that are a major component of the recommended 70% adjustment is not fully driven by the growth. It is a pass-through. So an existing customer who has been on sewer all this year, been paying $7 per thousand gallons. The TRA came and said, we're going to raise that to 11. So now it's a pass-through cost at this point. Now additional growth that you experience in may and most likely will affect operation and maintenance, internal department costs and expenses. but that increase is typically not as rapid. It's more in the neighborhood of 3 to 7%. Something that we would look at on an annual basis and see if it's worth or not. That helps.
I guess part of this, a question that I have is we're trying to get back to a 50% reserve. Are we trying to do that 50% reserve within 1 year? Are we trying to do that, are we trying to do that all now? Is the 70%, is that for this rate to get to 50%? Is that, how quickly are we trying to get there?
Okay, the rates that you see today is for us to break even. It doesn't even begin well, step one, to even break even, like such, the sewer system is the albatross right now. And to adjust the rates for it to have a break-even, self-sustaining cost is step one. Then any subsequent rate adjustments upwards in the future would help. That would address that 50% reserve. But right now, there's no reserve.
Yeah,
at
these
all.
rates with the 70% are not even getting us.
That's correct.
Have we ever had a reserve in the sewer since ever?
David's grinning.
Have we? Yes. Has it been a long time ago? Yes. A very long time ago.
But not since we experienced all our new growth.
Yeah, the growth is what's really, and since I chair the board at TRA, I can tell you.
Yeah, like 20 years, 30 years?
20 years ago, we were, pretty much sewer has never made money. It's always broke even. It's always been that way. But when we started experiencing this growth over the last 5 years especially, but really the last 10, it's been slowly drifting down because we haven't kept up with it.
So there's never been a 50% reserve in sewer? Okay.
The last time we had a really, really good reserve in water and sewer was probably in about 2012. And that was, we were bringing in enough money to help pay off that elevated water storage tank stuff. So that's the last time we really had pretty decent reserve for a while.
I know.
Very good budget, it wasn't very much.
I guess I got a real quick question maybe for you because you sit on the TRA, because the thing that's going through my mind listening to this whole presentation too is, yes, we are growing extensively in Haslet, but as a basis of around Fort Worth that's around us, we're probably less than 2% of what's been growing. So the base, it seems like, again, we're growing 1,500 people, but we probably grew 1,500 people just to the left of us here in Fort Worth, just, along 287 corridor, in the last year, not the last 5 years. So from a base perspective, is our percentage, are they looking at it from a percentage of the entire? Because
Yeah, this is always broken down to, even though Fort Worth's the big dog in the pack here, but it's still based off of everybody combined together because it takes this much. Our percentage of the plant runs around 11% of the entire capacity. But the overall capacity and what happens with this plant in terms of a sewer plant is a young plant. It's 20-something years old, but it's still young and it doesn't have, it's got a lot of pipeline with not a lot of people on it compared to how much pipe there is in the ground. Just our HC 25, they call it pipeline coming up to us. Think about it, when you leave 35 over here out of Haslet going, that pipe is running through that creek bottom all the way over. It didn't pick up anything else until you're almost to 114 in Roanoke, where it finally picks up more flow again. So all that pipe is just sitting there with nothing in it yet. But that's what it had to have in the original plan to be able to pick up us and farther deals with Fort Worth and farther deals with North Lake. So a lot of pipe way back when was put in the ground, and we're just trying to catch up to the growth of it. And then all of a sudden the growth comes so fast, they can't even get permitted down at TCQ for the last 3 years. We just now are getting approved for that one. By the time they start construction, we need to be starting, we'll already be behind again, need to go to 21 million gallons. That's where you're seeing, when you're seeing this 16, this new one right now is just getting us up to this $11, $12 range. The next one's gonna be the 16. And then after that, we've got, they're looking at the growth around the area. We'll finally start settling down, flattening out, come back down a little while, they'll come down. But 20, 30 years from now, I don't know what it'll be by then, but that's the big thing. All of us out here, building all these new houses and all this stuff, they're just spending all their time trying to catch up constantly.
I wanted to add what David is saying, that with regard to, with water, everybody understands we all have water meters. Every user has a meter, and you pay for what you use. Now you have a base charge, and then you have, I'll say, a flow charge on top of that. So your base takes you up to a very small amount, and then beyond that, you pay for that as well. Sewage is done the same way, except at the city level. We have meters on our sewage that flows into that TRA collective line, and we pay for what we send them. So I know it's tempting to look, okay, well, geez, you got these big expansive systems and stuff like that. Are we paying part of their cost over here to expand this or improve that? We're paying our share of what we use. That's how all of this was worked up.
And they do an annual study, TRA in Fort Worth, to determine everybody's share. That determined based on what the mayor is mentioning as the utilization of their system. So you do pay your own fair share. So just because you might be using 3 or 5% of their line or plant, you're still paying a share relevant of the overall growth of the system. To answer your question.
In regards to the 70% increase, that sounds like we almost have to get it done just to make us even out. Have you done any kind of projections or future forecasting for when we would be required to put another price increase on the table? How far out do we need to do an additional price increase after we take the 70% hit this time?
Well, let's go back to the third slide. Very beginning. Yeah, keep going. Okay. Goals and objectives. This is the fourth item. Implement an annual review of the water systems rate model. This model he has created, and it is review it annually, and also at the same time we're all constantly, and we all constantly monitor our new permits and certificates of occupancy, so that we see the growth. But annually, at the minimum, we always implement this. Here is a minimum of every 5 years, a comprehensive, which is 8 months to a year to conduct these studies like this, but it would be lessened by this annual update of the model. To answer your question, updating the model annually would indicate, do I need to go up? Do I need to go down? Do I stay where I'm at? And it will raise any flags. But implementing this will avoid where we are today for the future.
Has there been any discussion about doing it as a gradual cost to the citizens, where it's like 35%, then 35, or 25, 25, 25?
No.
Just 70% straight out of the gate?
Well, yes. I mean, we're telling you. Here's how much, I mean, was
You're
it
telling-
$38 a month to a household?
You're, excuse me?
The cost would be, I think it's $38, an additional $38. I don't mean that, I'm not treating that in a trivial way. Don't misunderstand
Because the
me.
taxes are going up too, so there's another cost with that. I'm just wondering if as a consumer could be prepared to know that, okay, it's 35% this year, okay, now I'm gonna have to budget and 35% gonna be next year, or 25, 25, 25, just as a consumer and
Okay,
fiscal
but
responsibility.
as a consumer, that's good, you know, that perspective, understand what we're doing financially. We're depleting the water and sewer.
Oh, I
fund.
understand exactly. Yeah, closing the gap, not using one to subsidize the other. I was just thinking of another way for our citizens not to take a 70% rate increase hit with a tax increase and a water increase.
I think I'm on the same board, just from the same place on the aspect of last year we did the CO, you know, because we had all this dollars associated with water and sewer that we needed to go place, and so now we're, you know, our whole plan when we're talking about it is, hey, we're going to increase 7.99% every single year over the next 7 years. I think, if I remember correctly, Mayor Halsey, to try to absorb some of that for that CO. Now we're actually telling them they need to come out and do a water increase on top of that too. So I guess that's, I understand it needs to be done. I understand that we need to make sure that we make, you know, or net neutral at least, and then at least try to get to a reserve. But I guess the question, you know, we're gonna get blowback from our constituents because we told them, hey, we're doing this via ad valorem and doing 7.99% each
no.
year. No, I think that's how
No,
we
let
tried
me-
to, that's how we tried to sell it last year.
No, we didn't try to sell it that way. We've always made it known, we are doing a water sewer rate study. This is, you know, this is coming. Now, the CO was to build the infrastructure. That was pipe. That was water sewer pipe. That
Correct.
was
I understand that.
pumps.
Yeah.
It wasn't the rate. The CO had absolutely nothing to do with
Agree, and I
this.
don't think, maybe I misstate the way I said it. I was looking at the aspect, we said, hey, we have to do the infrastructure, and the way we're gonna do this is we're doing 7.99% over the next 7 years so that we can actually pay for the infrastructure. Now we're coming back on top of that and saying, okay, now to even make I know it's a use, because again, it's a usage plan now. It's that individual usage and stuff, you know,
But if you'll remember on the CO, there was a percentage that was for city governmental purposes, and then there was a water sewer piece. And you're correct that there is an ad valorem piece, and it's for the city services, for the fire station expansion and some street projects that were in there. But the water sewer piece is not ad valorem. It's being funded by the water sewer system. So the debt service, that CO, is in the numbers Roman has used as part of our expenditures going forward. So the debt is partly part of the reason, even though we budgeted in the department, our revenues aren't sufficient to fund it. Does that make sense?
And also, like I said, I understand why we're having to do it. I understand the study and everything too. The key is being able to explain it to the person that's going to come talk to us about it next week.
Maybe very superficially. I need bigger pipes for water. I need bigger pipes for sewer. Yes, these subdivisions, they put in their own pipes, but it's only for their immediate project. Now, like we have essentially 7 new subdivisions, all are in various stages. One just finished up completely, Caraway. But we have all the other 6 are in various stages. But who gets to hook each one of those up? The city does. Those are transfer pipes. And also, we need bigger pumps. Providing the funds, which was the CO, addressed the hardware only. there's still a user fee. And that's what this water sewer TRA and Fort Worth wholesale is. It's the cost of that water and transferring that sewage to that plant, which the cost of the hardware was not anything about it. Now, I hear you. Let me ask this, okay? What if we intentionally, okay, acknowledge we need a 70% increase today just to break even? What if we go a 35% this year and we go a 35%, a minimum 35% next year, because our water sewer rate study may indicate you need to go up more?
I would be for that as someone that would just know what the cost is going to be this year and what it's definitely going to be next year, if not a little more, just to be, like I said, prepared budget fiscally.
If you took that, with this 70%, with the proposed, these average, these are residential average usages at the very top of this. Instead of $33.89, it would be $17. $16.95.
One thing I'd take a look at, really, we need to address this. We're throwing out the 5% and 70%. What we need to do is break it even further down, because we need to look at the residential and commercial. So I'm looking at the commercial sewer rates, or 70%. Why don't we go up 100% on the commercial rates and offset a little bit of the residential?
Can you address commercial?
We've done a similar comparison for commercial.
It's on slide 48, Appendix E3.
It's included as part of the other item that's included in the packet. The actual summary of the analysis results is just gives you an idea of the average.
Can you show it to them?
Yeah.
You would have to go to almost to the very last page, James. And it's a little tricky.
That would get us, you go up 100% on the commercial, that would get us right in line with, the Roanoke's.
Well,
Still way
I will
below
say
the West
this.
Lake and North Lakes, but I think that helps offset some of the residential impact.
I was gonna propose the same thing, do 35 now, and then next year, if we need to increase above 35, at least you don't have it all. 70% increase of anything is a lot. So 35%.
Well, it sounds like a lot.
It
sounds
to some
like a
people,
lot.
it's a lot, right? I mean, 70% is a big increase. 35 is half of that, and then the next year, maybe we need to go to
You
45.
want to go over there and drive so you can find your slide?
Yeah,
James,
I think we need to do that
Roman
on the residential
find that.
side, but I think we can also offset some of the residential impact with a bigger increase on the commercial side.
Well, understand, and part of this does achieve that. You'll see that they're trying to achieve that.
Or you could even do 70% with the commercial this year and then 70% again with them next year. I mean, you could just keep 100%, but if you just know that you're going to, well,
You're
you're
only
right.
talking,
Yeah, they need,
$20 different on the commercial side.
yeah, to them, that's
From a
probably
commercial
nothing.
prospect, James could speak more to this, I think, possibly on the commercial side. I don't think it's going to be as huge of an impact for a commercial development as for a residential homestead.
No, 100%. A commercial can absorb it way better than a residential could, for sure.
It's tricky to find a very steady average commercial customer in the city of Haslet. You have big, large warehouses, and then you have a couple small.
That's what I was going to ask you. What is the difference between how much flow residential generates versus how much flow commercial generates?
So commercial, if you average, we went and took all the big customers, all the little ones, and with the average metal, it's about 50,000 gallons water usage. Essentially, the shows, and most of them have 1 inch.
Can you focus on sewer? That's the big question. Right here, you have water.
One slide down, just next slide, right there. And it's about 10,000 gallons for an average customer. Nobody determines.
Now, what about actual for Haslet in particular? Water or the sewer I don't, in the civil side, they tend to measure it in cubic feet per second of flow. I don't know if they do wastewater in the same similar side of it. Do they measure it in CFS, or is it, I mean, it's irrelevant either way. Do you calculate from the residential side of the company, for lack of better words, from the water department, how much total flow the residential uses versus how much actual total flow commercial
As a
uses?
whole system.
Correct. Because that'll dictate for us to raise it 100% on commercial versus residential, the flow rates, it's all percentage based. So, that'll dictate if the percentage on commercial is even viable to do.
I think I hear what you're saying, but I believe that probably the implementation of it, if you go, we'll increase 35%, that's across the board.
Okay, so you can't split up
Not
commercial
break it
to-
out, okay, we're going up 100% on this piece and 35% over here, that would be kind of an accounting nightmare. So it'd be a 35%.
So you
plan.
can't split commercial and residential, I'm hearing you saying?
We don't. I mean, we have different accounting for it, so speak to that.
Can that be done, Marcy, or no?
I don't think I'm understanding your point.
Is they want, okay, so the rate increase is recommended a 70% increase, which is $38 a month. And the $38 is derived on using a residence as an example, how it affects residents. Okay, but that 70% increase also applies to commercial and industrial clients. Now, does in billing, yes, we have residential and commercial buildings. Now, it was proposed, we go up 100% on the rate charge with as on commercial company customers, and do 35% increase this year on residential and another 35 next year.
Yeah, that's just in your rate codes that you'd put into your system, and you have your different classes of customers, and they all have different classes of codes. That's their rate. So, yes, we currently have it in our system where
So it is possible
commercial-
to do that?
Yes, commercial
I mean,
would
it
have a
almost have
different
to be
rate
because
than
if-
residential.
I mean,
yeah.
if you look at the rates, on their data, because here you've got your residential sewer charge, you can back up 3 slides to the residential sewer charge, and there's a difference in the rate charges between residential and commercial. So obviously, it can be split out, and it's just a matter of when that account is opened, is it open as a commercial account or residential account?
Right, and that's what you just acknowledged.
So
yes.
that's
So
why I'm
good.
saying,
The way the rate structure set up is the commercial customer does pay a higher rate per 1,000 gallons. I think the question you asked.
So tell us what that number is. So a commercial currently,
So commercial customer pays per every 1,000 gallons for sewer, for example, it's $4, and the residential is $3.80. I mean, it's higher. You can increase that difference even more. I think the question you asked, out of the total flow that contributed to the TRA system from Haslet, how much of it is commercial? It's roughly about 15%. Does that answer your question?
That's the biggest.
That's what I was saying. So for just to make the numbers easy, 100,000 gallons, 15,000 was commercial.
Attributed by commercial development.
Is
Yes.
residential.
Yes.
Okay, so the majority of our flow is residential based.
Always, yes.
Yes. Now, water side is.
Residential side. That's the problem with, you raise the commercial, that's fine and good, and you can do it, that's fine. But it's still not gonna bring you in the big money that you need to set off the system. That's the problem with it, because it's too small of a part. If it was 40 or 50% of the system, yeah, you'd be seeing some good money, but at 15%, you don't see very much.
no, but it's still, I mean, it's still, though, it's going to get you a little bit more that you just don't have to tack onto the residential side. I understand what you're saying, David. Yeah, I mean, it's not that much, but.
That's where the money, when we're talking about the water funds, that's where the money's been coming from.
Yeah.
Is our rates on water for commercial, industrial are some of the highest in the entire area.
I just don't think, the Amazons and,
They call on a regular basis and complain about their water bills.
well, and that's,
Because ours are so much
But that's one call versus the 18,000 resident, 1,800 residents we've got in the city. So that's,
And the way your right structure is set up, and that's the way it should be set up, it penalizes the higher user, right? More impact to the system, the higher rate they pay. And it happens to be that those big warehouses irrigate a lot. So they use way more water and higher tier per unit.
well, and we're fixing to have Main Freight, they're gonna have a truck wash facility up there.
So we
that's gonna be using
currently
water.
do that already in our current rate structure.
And also for information, out of the total flow that's taken on by the city of Haslet, 40% is commercial only and 60% is only.
Under what kind of flow? What, is that water?
Out of the total water that's used by all your customers,
Right,
40% of that water is used by commercial customers.
right.
And the residential uses the other 60%. But the commercial actually pays almost 60% of the total water revenues.
Of the total bill. So we're doing that already. It's not as if it hasn't been occurring.
No, that's on the water side, but, I mean, our big issue is on the sewer side of the equation. That's
Okay, on
the
the sewer
deficit.
side now, commercial is 15% of the whole. 85% is residential.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm just looking at what can we do more on the commercial side for the sewer. The water, I think we're balanced on the water where we're at. We're
Let's ask
generating-
Roman that question. Roman and David. I mean, David sits on the board for TRA. What do you see? Can we legitimately, I said legitimately, transfer any other additional cost to commercial?
Say you double commercial sewer rates. Just, it will make a difference, it will make an impact, but because only 15% of the total sewer revenue comes from commercial, you still will have probably significant shortage. I can't give you that exact number right now, but the $900,000 that you projected to be short on the sewer side, in total, you project to bring $160,000 from the customers. So say it would double it, right? So that's another 160. So out of 860, you're still going to be $700,000.
I totally understand it. I'm not trying to balance the whole budget with an increase on the commercial side. I'm just saying we can pass along a bigger increase to the commercial side to at least lessen the impact on the residential side.
How much do you recommend increasing commercial?
I'd say 100%.
Double their sewer rates?
Yeah.
Would that be blatant? I mean, we
I
got to
think it's up to the
explain that
city
to
what
the
we wanna
commercial
do.
people.
It's up to the city what we want to do.
I
It's our
understand
budget.
that, but you got to have, you're as concerned as you are about resident responding to them, so is your business.
Yeah.
You got to respond to them.
That's fine.
And that more, so it's just, you need to be prepared all the way around. They're all customers of the city. So, you hear what the council, or you hear what is being proposed? I'm using the word legitimate.
Okay.
Let's hear from you.
Legitimate?
Yeah.
The position of doubling the commercial sewer rates?
Yeah.
I would have to put it back on you, council. I believe that's a policy question, whether or not you want to do that.
You
Do
said
other
that,
cities do that?
Will other cities do that?
No, do they? Are you aware? David, are you aware of it?
I looked at every single structure of that city, and on average, the commercial charge is higher, but not anywhere near to be double of the residential.
But is it higher than 20 cents, which is what, because you said ours is $4 versus $3.80?
Half of them about have the same rate, and half of them a little bit higher, some much higher, but not much higher.
If I'm looking at this current chart right in front of us, right now, we're currently only $250 base charge plus the $40, so $650 is the current rate. But then we're trying to go, if we added 70%, we'd be going up to the, per 1,000 would be $11.05.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to follow you here.
I'm looking here, rank one, we're the lowest. Sewer base charge, $25, sewer volume charge is $40, so it's basically, this is per 10,000, so that'd be $6.50.
Yes.
And if we propose 70%, we're going up to $11.05.
Yes, most of it is going to be, yes, your volume charge.
Yeah, and most of it's from the volume side.
Yes.
So if we went up another 30%, I think is what Doug's asking, because we're doing 70% now, we'd be asking the commercial side to go up 100%, so additional 30%.
$130. Most likely.
So we'd be right in line basically with Roanoke.
Yes.
Okay, so that's all I'm doing is trying to look exactly what you're looking at.
Yeah,
So-
no, that's what I did. That's why I said, okay, that gets us up to the Roanoke. Now, whether other cities are in the same situation we were, where we're trying to play catch-up, do they increase rates like that in a given year? I don't know. I'm not involved in other cities. We got to get our rates up that balance our budget, because we're worried about our city budget.
I know this is a big jump, maybe this will help. The TRA's rate increase just kicked in, significant rate increase of $5 or equal to 50% of current rates, just kicked in this year, January 1st, right, David? So this is.
Actually, it's December 1st.
Yeah, well.
December 1.
So, it's just happened. TRA just basically came and said, we're gonna go up 50% on you guys. We're gonna go up everybody 50%. So, big component of that 70% is not something that we've been sitting on, or the city has not been touching.
So let me ask this question. Let me ask this question, Rowan and David, and listen, council. Okay, I'm looking at this chart. Currently, we're at $65, and this assumption on a commercial account. A 70% increase, I assume, is the $110. Is that the result of that 70%?
Yes.
If we doubled it, we're at $130, what you're saying. Okay. So what if we take, all right, so that's not unprecedented. I mean, my God, look at Westlake and look at North Lake. Of course, North Lake's got their own, that's not out of line. But, all right, if we doubled it and did a 35 increase on residential. Now, I'll say that doubling the commercial rate isn't really going to move the needle at all, because we got 15% commercial as a user. 85% of that system is residential. But we could do half the increase now and guarantee the other half next year, and it might be a little bit more because of model update and due to growth.
Or hopefully you have your reserves built up to address any needed rate stabilization last minute, so you can avoid maybe another rate hike in it.
Well, doing this is not going to build any reserve. Absolutely. We're still going to be in deficit. We're not even breaking even.
Most likely, yes.
I've done the math and gone with it for too many months. Doing the 70% increase across the board, that just breaks even. It doesn't build any reserve. It just covers the cost of the sewer, and the sewer pay for itself. But I understand what you're both saying on both ends of the dice here, is that, okay, yes, we're going up on the tax rate ad valorem, and there's all kinds of cost increase just due to the nature of the beast of this growth, and there's no way to escape it. Besides the material cost of things and water, road, and sewers, et cetera, there is a user fee that's levied on top of us, and that's what we're addressing here. But to help soften that blow, taking everything into account, yeah, good, okay. It's not out of line if we were to double that commercial rate.
So I have a question. If we double the commercial rate, that means that'll be the rate set, and so people wanting to come into our city and build commercially will have that rate.
Yes.
So I'm not really for doubling the commercial rate, because I know that that'll just turn the cost of something at a store back to me, probably, with the cost. But I definitely am for the 35% this year and 35% next year. So that was my only concern with doubling commercial, is we want to attract commercial to our city, and I don't know how well that will do that.
My concern on 35 and 35, and just another question for you. Again, I'm trying to play on both sides of it here. We just talked about the $5 pass-through charge. If we increased it by 35%, would that even cover our $5 pass-through?
The 5% from Fort Worth?
Well, the $5 it's increasing of our,
Fee to TRA.
would that,
It would cover half of it, yes, because that's just one component, your
but
wholesale cost.
I think I've switched over to the water side here. The water side, you just told us, and maybe I heard incorrectly, that it went up $5 per thousand.
Yes.
If we do a 35% increase, does that even cover that $5 pass?
You're mixing two different topics.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
focus on the sewer. The 70% increase is sewer only, and that's where we were talking about. We'll do 35% this year and 35% next year.
He's right, the $5 he's talking about is the sewer is going from $7 to another $5, so almost $12. So $5 additional.
To 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Basically a full 50% increase in sewer charge this year. That's what they're telling us. That's what they told us.
So if we only do 35%, we're going to be operating in a deficit still.
Still, yes.
The sewer system fund will
Yeah.
still be operating in
It's still
deficit.
going.
And at this rate, if you're gonna be in even enough surplus in the water side to subsidize your sewer, if that's what you wanna keep doing.
We don't want to keep doing that. I think we all don't want to
No,
keep doing that.
that's the wrong thing to do.
And more
But-
forward here, if you don't wanna keep subsidizing, you're looking at the 70% rate increase.
And I'm thinking more of a, like I said, gradual closing of the gap, not just shutting the door.
You
right
also-
I think it's mainly attributed, it's only attributed to TRA costs.
But
They
you-
dictate your rates. You buy it from them. You buying something for $12 and selling it to your customer for $7, so you will never break even. Plus, you have other costs associated with operating and maintaining the department, not just the wholesale costs.
Let me propose this to you, council, and I think you're already there. Y'all been talking this way, is to implement what was the water rate increase recommended?
5%.
Do a 5% increase on the water and do a 35% increase on sewer, knowing that we will increase again another 35% minimum next year.
Well, you're saying 35% for commercial and residential.
Yes, across the board.
So I would think commercial would stay 70%, stay the same.
Say it again.
Commercial would stay the 70% increase.
And do it in 1 year?
And let them know that it might increase the next year for them as well.
Well,
But
it would
Councilman Horick wants like 100, so I mean,
Yeah.
I understand your point too, Doug.
All right, you know what I need? I need people to start making motions on things so we can vote this thing and let's make a decision. That's how we make decisions here.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we increase the residential water rate by 5%, and we increase the residential sewer rate 35% this year, with the understanding of the minimum of 35% next year.
With what? Minimum what?
The expectation of 35% the following year, subsequent year. I don't know how you'd phrase that.
35.
That's it.
I'll just say this.
And what about commercial?
You cannot bind next year's council to a rate, and so you get the expectation could be, oh, we'll do that, but next year there might be a change. You might say, no, we don't want to increase it, and they can't be stuck with y'all's decision today. So the motion will just need to be what it is going to be for this year.
So there's nothing added to the motion of subsequent.
I would not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you 35% is at commercial and residential.
Do I have to do commercial and residential together?
If you're splitting it out, I mean, I've heard all this discussion. Yeah.
Then I'd also like to make a motion to increase, I don't know what it was, the commercial, was there's also 5%? Water and 70% sewer.
Okay, the motion is made to increase the residential water rate by 5% and the sewer rate by 35%. No, listen to me. Listen, I'm summarizing for you. The motion is to increase the residential water rate by 5% and the sewer rate by 35%. Increase the commercial water rate by 5% and the commercial sewer rate by 70%. Yes.
Prior to you taking any action, I'd just like to point out that the current budget that you just approved this evening anticipated this rate increase.
The
So
full
if you-
70%?
Yes.
Not a partial. So we'll have to make up the difference. If we can't offset these costs with water rates, we'll have to take it from the general fund. So I just want, and thank you for pointing that. We need to be very conscious what we're doing fiscally on purpose. And I think maybe someone asked, why did they do that back in the past? Maybe they weren't fully cognizant of what was going on. I would suspect that's the case. It's not an easy topic, especially one that takes more than a year to calculate and study. So there's a motion on the floor. I'll repeat it. Water rate increase is 5% for both commercial and residential. Sewer increase is 70% for commercial and 35% for residential. Is there a second?
Mayor Holsey,
Is there
I'll
a second?
Mayor Holsey, I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? All right, motion passes. All right. So we have what we have, and we'll need to look at our, there'll be some minor adjustments going forward.
Yeah, we'll take a look at implementing this and what it might do to the budget. We do have a small reserve at this point, and we'll just have to look at it and see if we may need to amend the budget.
And we won't know that for a couple of months.
The corresponding ordinance that was prepared with the revised fee schedule will have to be amended before coming back.
We'll amend that ordinance. Okay, let's go ahead and do another motion on that. I need a motion that will amend the ordinance accordingly to reflect these fees just approved. So may I have a motion to that?
Mayor Holsey, I'd like to make a motion to amend the ordinance to reflect the rates that were just approved.
All right. Motion's made to amend the ordinance to reflect the rates that have just been approved. Is there a second?
Mayor, I'll second that.
There is a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. All right then. Any other house cleaning on this topic? All right. Thank you for bringing that up. All right, let's take a 5-minute break, and I'll meet you, council, in the boardroom for executive session.
And I'll just note, because the item is about Northwest ISD, Mayor Pro Tem Moore will not be in attendance of the executive session.
That's cool. Oh, I just. Yeah.
Nice thing is too, if for some reason we had the old problem where somebody could not remember to turn theirs off, I could turn off hers for her.
Well, you could last time too, couldn't you?
He could always do it. Like, he can still do it. He can mute whoever he feels like. He can turn it off. He can also.
Don't tell him that. Did you tell him that?
Yeah.
Damn it.
He can hit a button that just makes him the only one that talks.
What did you
There's
say?
a button that he can just be the only one that talks.
Oh
He
my
can be the chairman.
When that happens.
For him, if you're not voting, he just tells them. And there's a way to take off the voting, like I said.
The time is 10:49 p.m. and we are resuming the open session of the council meeting. All members of the council are present. We will go to item 11. There are no actions to be taken as a result of the executive session. Next item. Future agenda items. Apologize, they didn't get listed on here, but just things that like the TS, Tarrant County Sheriff's Office. Hopefully that's coming. I spoke with Chief Candace here just last week. That's in the works. We have, I know there's several other items out there. Please help me remember.
The bid on the mowing.
The bid on the mowing.
More important one. Fire station.
Awarding the contract on the fire station.
That's the one big.
We have several items of that nature.
Mayor Halsey, just out of curiosity, from the what we got earlier from the residents, I know I took it, some of this FM 156 that we're talking with Ashmore Farms is already being addressed in the remarking of.
It's already been submitted to TxDOT for many months.
Yeah,
And it sounds
so-
like that, I'll be talking with Mr. McCoy tomorrow, trying to get a name. Sounds like they may have lost. I sent an email as late as last week on that very thing.
I was thinking we'd already addressed it,
Yeah.
but. Okay, we don't need to take any.
No, if it needs to be on the agenda item, we will. Does anybody here have any agenda item to put on?
Now, the only thing I would think of is up there on, Haslet Parkway, plans for the extension of intermodal to connect over to Blue Mound. That, maybe a quarter-mile piece.
Well, from Blue Mound, it is. The only place intermodal's not connected is about a 50-foot gap
Yeah, that's what I'm.
from intermodal, that portion north, and that's on the developer. That is the developer's cost.
Okay, that's what I was curious about is, opening that up, making a through street, so.
Correct.
Is there any more, I guess, because I heard that wrong, the SH 170, that big flyover that they're planning on doing to intermodal, do we have any?
We don't have any new plans or anything submitted to the city. I mean, that is happening in 2, 3 years to come. That is happening, but we haven't got anything new to the city.
Mayor Halsey, I had one thing, I don't know if it's a future agenda item, but it was on our engineering report, the roadway, roadway failures. Can there be an update on those? It was on the engineering report, but I don't know.
Yes, and hopefully we should have something to report back by October the 7th. Of course, that would be an executive session item.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, well, let's go to item 13, adjourn.
Mayor Halsey, I move to adjourn.
Motion's made to adjourn. Is there a second?
Mayor Holzer, I'll second.
All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, council. A lot of work tonight. We got a lot done.